Hello and welcome to a brand new Parry's Pickup. Thanks for joining us today. Again, it's a mixed bag this week. It's mostly one particular console, but there is another one thrown in there for good measure. Let's just kick off with that one. This was a game I didn't really have an intention of picking up, but I've been talking to a friend of mine, and he's really enthusiastic about the brand new Digimon game. That's Digimon World Next Order. That's what I keep forgetting the subtitle of this game. And it sparked my interest in Digimon. I'm going to put it over there. Because I never really got into Digimon when it was first about. I don't think I had any of the Digimon games, which there have been quite a few of now. And I never had a little Digimon virtual pet either. I was fully into Pokemon at the time, and I guess it was just one thing too many to keep an eye on. But I became more curious about this game through the enthusiasm of my friend Cody, who would really, this was going to be super good. And I started playing it, and I thought, okay, visually it's not the greatest looking PS4 game I've ever played, but I didn't really know what to expect, so I was sort of going on my first impression of the visuals, and then it sort of like, okay, oh, this is a little different from Pokemon. This felt like a little bit like Pokemon crossed with The Sims, I guess, but you can see where its roots lie. So you're given two monsters at the start, and you're tasked with rallying up some Digimon who have left their village as you're transported into another world from, I guess, the regular world to this Digimon world. There's a big nasty Digimon that keeps popping up and causing trouble. And some of the Digimon have fled from this village. So your job is using your two Digimon you're given is to round up those Digimon. At least this is how the game starts. So you have these two Digimon, and they can be trained up through going to a training school, which you take them to, and you put them in this machine, and then you say, I want to train on that and that and that. The only thing is, of course, that they get fatigued if they train for too long, so you have to take them out at the right point and give them some rest, or make sure they go to the toilet. So this is where sort of that Sims element comes in. I'm more saying this from someone who's never played a Digimon game before, so I know it's a long-standing series, and there's probably many of you who have sampled maybe the other Digimon World game, but for me this was all new. And so I didn't realise at the beginning how important training actually was, because I wanted to get out and explore the world. So I was advised to train my Digimon up to a particular level before I leave the village. Okay, so I put them in this machine. It seemed rather simple otherwise, but you did have to keep an eye on how much rest they needed, and in Digimon days pass, so if you can't do too much in any one day. So you can train until the day ends and Digimon sleep. But I was out there in the field as soon as I possibly could, and I met, I think, Digimon called Patamon, and he wanted to fight, and that sort of, you get a little tutorial at the beginning about the combat, but it's kind of was a continuation of that. And Patamon then agreed to, realised we were the good guys, and agreed to join us and head back to the village, where he opens a little shop. You'll find this as you meet the Digimon in the game, then they set up shop in your village. So I went back out there thinking, yeah, I'm ready to take on these enemies now. But every time, I couldn't manage it. I couldn't beat any of the enemies on the field. And I realised that my Digimon just hadn't had enough training. So I went back and trained them and kept going back and forth to see when they were strong enough. But soon I realised that they really need some proper full-on training until they're actually strong enough to fight any of the enemies. But I eventually reached that point, and it was very satisfying to go through all those enemies that had caused me lots of trouble before and destroy them pretty quickly. It seems to be at night the enemies are a little bit stronger. I think they were all like level 1 enemies at the beginning, and now the level 2 enemies come out at night, and I struggled a bit with that, so I kept going, kept training. My Digimon evolved for, I think, maybe the 4th time, and what surprised me is how different they look once they evolve. They don't kind of continue on the look they had in the last stage. They can be something totally different, something that looked like, I've seen in the video, he looked like a cog. very mechanical looking, turned into a plant. And then my other one, who looked like a goblin or an ogre, he turned into a sorcerer. So it's really quite fun because you never know really what you're going to get. And it's a very different sort of design style from Pokemon, so it's also a refreshing change in that respect. I got rather into this game, and I found myself playing it for quite a few hours now. And my initial impressions were this is a little bit tough, and my Digimon kept getting injured, and I didn't really have any bandages to heal them or anything, so I just had to wait several days until gradually, through resting, that they healed up. But there's a lot of depth to it, and I think that depth could be a little bit off-putting at the beginning, but it really is one you stick with. And if you do that, it's very rewarding, and I didn't expect to like this game as much as I do now. I mentioned the visuals before. They're not bad. They're really colourful, which is super nice, and very sharp. I guess they just don't look like a lot of other high-end PS4 games, that's all. It's very stylised, cartoon-like. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite match how great this box art is, because that's some of the best box art I've seen on this era of PS4 games. It's super nice. It tries to sort of basically emulate that, but it doesn't quite work out. But for anybody who likes Pokemon, which I do, you're going to get a lot of satisfaction from this game, because it's about leveling up and sort of looking after these creatures in more of a way than Pokemon ever is. You do feel like you gain more of a bond. You've only got 2 of them. You praise them, and then you you give them rest. You heal them. I mean, there's a little bit more to it, and you feel a little bit more of a connection with the creatures you raise in this one, even though they keep changing their appearance every now and again. So yeah, I'm really quite enamoured with this game, and I'd urge anyone who's not really played Digimon, who likes Pokemon, you're going to get a bit of fun out of this game, and it's going to be a little bit of a different experience for you, and I think it's well worth trying. Wow, I spent 7 minutes on one game. Shows how good that one is. I'll move on to another game. Which one's next? Another good one. Another good. Thank God, it's a good game. That is Dead Rising 4. So I imagine a lot of you are familiar with Dead Rising series. This one sees a character from the original Dead Rising return, Frank West. He has been in other Dead Rising games. He returned in a reworking of Dead Rising 2, which I thought was a great game. Really enjoyed that. And I liked the lead character, Chuck Green, in that. So I've never been a huge Frank fan, because my first Dead Rising was Dead Rising 2, and Chuck Green, I thought he was a very noble character, and he looked cool, and he was trying to look after his daughter. But Frank is very sarcastic, and he's he's a sort of, let me see, like what's his name, Ash from Evil Dead. He reminds me of him quite a bit. He's a photographer, and there is some photography in this game, just like there was in the original Dead Rising. But it takes away the time restrictions, which have become synonymous with the series. Dead Rising was always a game where you had to look at how long you had left to do something, and you couldn't just, as much as you wanted to kill zombies, you always knew you were under some sort of time restraint. In this one you're not, which is very different from the outset. It feels more like an excuse to have another Dead Rising game. Like, I don't think, maybe it was a necessary game to be made, but actually what it does provide is a unique experience from the other ones. Say if you just want to slay zombies, and the humour is ramped up to the max in this one as well. But it's rinse and repeat in the original formula, but with a few things added in there to make it more accessible, I guess. A lot of things are made easier in terms of how many weapons you can carry. You carry 3 different types of weapons. I think it's about 3 of each, and you can carry an amount of food as well. So I think in the old Dead Rising, you only carry one thing at a time. You have to keep putting things down and such. That was in I've not really played 3, so I can't comment on how that changed things. But everything's been done to make it more accessible. So Dead Rising's core gameplay really shines in this game, because you get to slay a lot of zombies in fun and creative ways. A crafting system, now you can do it anyway. You don't have to have a crafting table to do that, which is which is nice. Can be a little bit confusing at first to negotiate all the menus and remember how to do stuff. I still can't work out how you throw just regular weapons as opposed to throwable weapons like grenades and such, which is easy, you know. But to actually throw a hand weapon isn't as intuitive as it was in the older Dead Rising games. The storyline is pretty straightforward. Apparently, it begins with the zombie outbreak being curbed, I guess, maybe in Dead Rising 3, and there aren't really any zombies. Everyone's been given this vaccine against this zombie virus. But it seems some organisation is creating zombies in a lab for whatever reason. You and a younger reporter go to investigate, and yeah, they find you out, and Frank becomes a man on the run. Years later, he's working in a school. I think Hank East or something he's calling himself, and he's teaching photography in said school. And I think a police officer or a government guy comes to visit him and to tell him that there's been another zombie outbreak and they've kept it all under wraps, but it has happened, and it happened at the same mall that was featured in the original Dead Rising. Frank, you got to go in there and sort it out because you're the guy with skills, you know what you're doing. Basically, it's just an excuse to get Frank back in that original mall from Dead Rising 1, destroying zombies in a more accessible and maybe even more gleeful and light-hearted way than before. So it's a lot of fun, and those same Dead Rising staples of leveling up the character, learning new abilities, crafting new objects, and its humour and characters, they're all present, and it's a lot of fun. Although it does feel like a last hurrah for the series. I don't see how they can keep this concept fresh into a Dead Rising 5 unless they really do change things up a little bit. I think this is a celebration of the series, and if you want more zombie slaying action, then this game certainly delivers. I won't be able to say as much about the next two games. The first one is pretty straightforward. That's Formula 1 2015. Of course, 17 has just come out now, but I got this fairly cheap. Well, actually, not so recently when I was in Glasgow. Again, we're still getting through the Glasgow bulk of games that I bought. But this does the job very well. I jumped into a quick race and it was very accessible. I think maybe some of the simulation options were turned down for this quick race mode, but it looked nice. It handled really well, as you expect from any of Codemasters racing games. They really know what they're doing there. I've got 2016 on the PS4, and that was a great game. What I really like about Formula 1 games is it's a different kind of racing experience on the whole, because you've got the pit stops, you've got to manage your fuel, and yeah, it's a fun variation on the driving games, and Codemasters always do a really good job of these. This one I don't think is any exception. I say I've just played the quick race, so I can't comment on how well implemented the pit stops and such are, but I assume it's the same as it is in 16. Nice presentation, good gameplay, good game. And lastly, a game I haven't played, and that is because it's taking a long time to install. This is Gears of War 4, a game I borrowed from the library some time ago. I went to play it over the weekend, and I'm just getting nowhere, because this game has become game disk up to 60 gigabyte storage required. I think it's up to maybe 90 now or something ridiculous like that. It's a huge download. It's certainly is bigger, if not bigger, than Halo 5 was, which I managed to eventually upgrade. I remember last time I wanted to play that game, I had to wait an awful long time. For me, the time when I tried to install this last, when I was borrowing it, I got so far, but then it sort of timed out and lost connection, and then went back to the beginning again. And I didn't have the patience to go on, because, I'll install this when my Xbox is on, and I had it on most of the weekend, slowly installing it at a snail's pace. And then to lose all that progress and revert back to nothing was incredibly frustrating. And since I got this copy of my own copy, I haven't opened it. I don't have enough space on my Xbox for it at the moment. There's other games I want to play, namely like Dead Rising 4, which isn't a game that, not a small game by any means. So eventually I'll get round to this one. I may have to uninstall some of the sports games that I've got on here that maybe haven't played as much, like NBA or something, or I don't know. I'm gonna have to maybe Forza 5 because I've got Forza 6. I just don't think it's on. When imagine buying this game now and being faced with 90 gig install, unless you've got a super fast internet connection for all the updates as well, then it really is a major frustration to even try and play this game. I'm sure it's great. I've heard it's very good. I enjoyed the previous Gears of War games. I really enjoyed playing Horde online with friends. And Horde 3.0, 5-player co-op. Ooh, sounds great. One day I'll play it. It also comes with all the other Gears of War games as a download, which when you combine this game for, I can't remember if it's like 12, 15, it was around that area, 12 or 15 pounds, brand new. It's an incredibly good deal. You don't get the HD remake of Gears of War 1, but you can download the original 360 game, which still is enjoyable, plays great. But the Gears of War series has been one, I think, once you've played through maybe a couple of them, the kind of the, what would I say about it? It becomes a little bit samey. I hope they introduce enough new things in this game's campaign to, give it something fresh, but I don't know yet. But I heard it's had good reviews, so I look forward to eventually giving this one a go. And that's it. We're nearly up to date now with games pickups. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Really do appreciate you taking the time to watch these. I hope you find them informative and, maybe you learned about a game, learned a little bit more about a game you were thinking of picking up. So that's cool. Well, thanks again, and I shall see you next time for another Parry's Pickups. Bye for now, and game on.